takes a lot of courage to do the interview against Diddy because I'm like, hey, if you out there putting your hands on people and forcing girls to abort babies and stuff that you are like, no, I'm sorry. We're not doing that. So
Day 3 of the Diddy trial, Cassie is still on the stand, and we are learning what a true and vile POS he is. We saw text messages that Cassie showed us from the night of the Intercontinental Hotel video, where you'd think he's saying sorry to her. I'm so sorry. I love you. Nope. He's saying, please call me. I have kids. Just yesterday, at the end of the day, when I guess Cassie disclosed that Diddy liked for her to rub the escort's semen, I don't know if I should say that, semen, on his nipples after they were all done. I mean, this guy's sick. I don't need to know all of this. I really don't need to know all of this. But yeah, poor Cassie.
It's just because I really did love and care about him. Like, it was like unhealthy because I say it's unhealthy because it was like I didn't care about myself because I just care about him, and I would do like selfless things for him, and then I wouldn't get anything reciprocated, but then I would watch him like treat other women better than he treat me.
What if I told you the darkest parts of the Diddy scandal haven't even hit the headlines yet? Forget what you thought you knew about Cassie's lawsuit, because her latest courtroom revelations just cracked this whole thing wide open. We're talking forced pregnancies, manipulated abortions, disturbing acts of degradation, and a web of control so sinister it spans years and multiple women. And it's not just Cassie. More women are coming forward, and the patterns? Identical. If these testimonies hold up, we're not just looking at a fall from grace. We're staring down the unraveling of a decades-long empire built on silence, abuse, and power. Let's get into the disturbing puzzle pieces that just started to click. This wasn't just sex, it wasn't just scandal, and it damn sure wasn't love. It was domination. It was destruction. And for Cassie, it almost broke her. In a shocking twist buried deep in the lawsuit, past the headlines about beatings, drug-fueled orgies, and surveillance, lies a moment so dark, it redefines everything we thought we knew about Diddy's alleged abuse. Cassie was pregnant. She got pregnant during what insiders and legal filings now refer to as freakoffs, those notorious nights where she claimed she was drugged, exploited, and trafficked to other men for Diddy's pleasure. But instead of this being a turning point toward healing, it allegedly became another weapon of control. Cassie says that when Diddy found out she was carrying his child, he didn't offer support. He didn't express fear. What he did, according to her, was demand an abortion. Not a conversation, not a choice, a demand. The child, the life, the potential future that might have forced her out of that nightmare, allegedly extinguished with chilling efficiency. And Cassie says she went through it alone, silenced, coerced, and broken. This isn't just about bruises and threats. It's about what happens when a man with unchecked power allegedly believes he owns a woman entirely, her body, her mind, her choices. This is about annihilating autonomy. And once you understand that, every other part of this story takes on a new, horrifying light. Because if a man will allegedly force a woman to destroy her own child to maintain control, what else is he willing to destroy? Cassie's story might be the most publicized, but it's far from an isolated case. As the dust settles around her lawsuit, other women are stepping out of the shadows, and the stories they tell paint a disturbing, recurring pattern. Enter Virginia V., also known as Gina Hunet. She was with Diddy for years. She saw the mansion walls, the parties, the chaos. And what she claims happened to her sounds like a mirror image of Cassie's nightmare. According to Gina, she didn't just suffer emotional torment. She endured physical assaults, manipulative mind games, and something even more chilling, forced reproductive control. Gina says she became pregnant by Diddy multiple times. And each time, she claims, the outcome was the same. He allegedly coerced her into getting an abortion. Not because it wasn't the right time, not because it was her decision, but because, in her words, He didn't want any baby mama drama ruining his brand. The pain wasn't just emotional. Gina alleges she was physically abused, describing one incident where Diddy hurled a high heel at her face with such force she needed stitches. Her eye, permanently damaged. Another time, she claims he stomped on her leg so violently that she feared it was broken. These are just angry outbursts. They're violent, calculated acts of control. The common thread between Cassie and Gina isn't just the fame or the relationship or the trauma. It's the stripping of choice, of bodily autonomy, and of the very humanity these women say they were denied. What we're seeing here isn't random. It's ritualistic, and it points to something far more organized and far more dangerous than the public ever imagined. If Cassie's lawsuit shook the foundation, the courtroom could be the earthquake, and the epicenter might just be Gina Huney. Whispers are growing louder in legal circles. Gina Huney, the woman who once stood in Diddy's shadow, may be preparing to step into the spotlight. Sources close to the situation say her name is being floated as a potential witness. And if she testifies, this case might not just be about Cassie anymore. It could crack wide open. Gina's claims are eerily similar. Allegations of beatings, emotional manipulation, and perhaps most damning of all, the repeated pressure to terminate pregnancies against her will. If she takes the stand and tells a jury the same story Cassie told, but from a different angle with different dates, different moments, yet the same pattern, it's not just one woman's word against Diddy's anymore. It's a pattern, a system, a methodology. This kind of corroborating testimony could be devastating. Because once a jury hears that Cassie wasn't the only one, once they hear that another woman, with no incentive to lie, is describing the same playbook, it doesn't just become believable. It becomes undeniable. And that's what terrifies powerful men, patterns. Because you could deny an incident. You can smear a single accuser. But you can't spin a pattern. You can't unring the bell once the public, and the courts, see the truth laid bare from multiple mouths, under oath. If Gina speaks, the silence around Diddy might finally shatter. Behind the glitz, the Grammys, and the glossy magazine covers, a shadow industry was allegedly operating under Diddy's empire. One fueled by control, manipulation, and a twisted kind of capitalism. This wasn't just about wild parties or celebrity excess. What's emerging now is something far more calculated. Cold. Organized. Welcome to the freak-off economy. According to multiple lawsuits and insider accounts, Diddy's so-called freakoffs, the term insiders use to describe his private, hypersexual gatherings, weren't spontaneous wild nights. They were scheduled, booked, budgeted, like corporate retreat from hell. Women, often escorts or industry hopefuls, were allegedly flown in from out of state, sometimes out of the country. These weren't casual hookups. These were coordinated logistics operations. Invoices were submitted. Flights were arranged. Per diems were issued. And some women didn't even know what they were walking into until they arrived. One former assistant claims there were spreadsheets. Names, dates, services. Another insider says women were categorized by race, by body type, by what they were willing to do. It wasn't about pleasure. It was about power, and Diddy allegedly ran it like a business. Some reports allege women were paid via third-party shell companies to mask the transactions. Others say the payments were sometimes delayed or withheld as a means of control. If you didn't play by the rules, you didn't get paid. Or worse, you were blacklisted. Your name passed around like a warning. What's especially chilling is how normalized it all became. These weren't secret backroom deals. This was, allegedly, standard procedure. Like an HR department for exploitation. And those freak-offs, they were recurring, scheduled with calendar invites. Some women were allegedly booked months in advance, the same way you'd reserve a conference room. What we're looking at isn't just abuse. It's infrastructure, a system, a supply chain of silence and subjugation, greased by money and maintained by fear. This wasn't chaos. It was a machine. From the outside, it looked like healing, wellness retreats, for drips flown in from Beverly Hills. A private chef preparing macrobiotic meals. Cassie was living what most would call a dream. Personal trainers, spa appointments, custom-designed therapy sessions. But that wasn't recovery. It It was a cover-up. Because what do you call a wellness regimen built not for healing, but for erasing the evidence? According to Cassie's legal team, every luxury was a response to destruction. The 4 bags weren't about energy. They were about trauma recovery. The chef-prepped meals weren't indulgent. They were necessary, because she often couldn't eat after what allegedly happened behind closed doors. The massages weren't pampering. They were to soothe a body that had been brutalized. Cassie didn't live in a mansion. She lived in a controlled environment, an upscale prison with plush furniture and a security system. One source claimed the treatments were scheduled like clockwork, not for Cassie's peace, but for Diddy's conscience. If he could throw money at the aftermath, maybe he wouldn't have to face the reality of what came before. And it wasn't just physical healing. Therapists were allegedly flown in. But even that, insiders claim, came with strings. Were they there for her? Or to manage her? To sedate her emotions just enough so she didn't spiral publicly? Because make no mistake, image was everything. As long as she looked healthy, glowing, composed, then Diddy's world stayed intact. But wellness can be weaponized. And for Cassie, every vitamin infusion, every salt bath, every sound bath was a reminder, not of luxury, but of what she had survived. She wasn't healing. She was being kept quiet, in silk sheets and silence. She was 19, wide-eyed, beautiful, and barely out of high school. A MySpace discovery with a hit single, Me and You, and a dream in her pocket. That's who Cassie was when she met Diddy. Decades older, wildly powerful, and already a mogul with a legacy. And that's where the manipulation began. Because this wasn't just a romance. It was grooming disguised as mentorship. Diddy positioned himself as a protector, a gatekeeper to stardom. He told her she was special, that she was different from the others, that he could make her a star if she just stuck with him. And why wouldn't she believe him? He had already built empires. She was just beginning. He didn't just shape her career. He shaped her world. Cassie never stood a chance. Insiders describe how he isolated her from the start. Slowly, strategically. First, it was encouragement to drop old friends, people who didn't understand the lifestyle. Then came the distance from family. Then the career moves that never quite took off. Every time she pulled back, he'd reel her in with gifts, apologies, or public affection. And because he was her first love, her only love in many ways, she believed it. He kept her close enough to control, but far enough from anyone who could break the spell. And when she questioned things, he reminded her who she'd be without him. Nobody. Forgotten. Just another girl with a one-hit wonder and no support. He became her anchor, her sky, her cage. This wasn't love. This was psychological captivity. Every step Cassie took, Diddy was 10 steps ahead, controlling the narrative, managing her image, ensuring she remained loyal, dependent, afraid to leave. Because leaving meant losing everything she'd built, everything he let her build. Her fame wasn't hers. It was rented, on his terms. And so she stayed. For nearly a decade, Cassie existed in a world crafted by a man who allegedly loved her just enough to own her, but never enough to free her. It's a story older than Hollywood. The powerful man, the young girl, and the illusion of choice. She thought it was love, but it was a trap with a velvet lining. It started as a joke, a viral moment, a clip from Kershaw Please where young Miami, real name Kershaw Brownlee, looked straight into the camera and said she likes golden showers. Laughed about it, made it sound like a wild girl quirk, a freaky flex. The internet went crazy. Memes exploded. Think pieces dropped overnight. Was it empowerment? Was it TMI? Everyone had an opinion. But nobody asked the deeper question, where did that come from? Because if you've read the lawsuit, if you've heard Cassie's allegations, you know that golden showers weren't just a kink in Diddy's past. They were allegedly a recurring form of degradation. According to Cassie, it wasn't a game. It was humiliation masked as intimacy. A ritual. A power play. And suddenly, Koresh's viral moment didn't feel so funny. It felt familiar. Too familiar. This wasn't just a new woman with a wild preference. This was a pattern. A disturbing echo. 2 women. Years apart. Both tied to Diddy. Both speaking on the same act. One in horror. One in jest. Was this just coincidence? Or were we watching the evolution of control, from silence and secrecy with Cassie to glamorized compliance with Kershaw? Because if Cassie's trauma was real, and every word of her legal claim paints a picture of psychological warfare, then you have to ask, was this a preference? Or was this programming? Did young Miami truly like what she claimed? Or had she learned, like Cassie before her, how to perform pleasure in Diddy's world? A world where women were accessories, not partners. Where dominance was wrapped in diamonds. Where disgust was sold as luxury. And maybe that's the most chilling part of all, how easily we all laughed along. How the internet turned a red flag into a punchline. Because what if that clip wasn't funny? What if it was a cry for help, dressed up as a viral moment? In Diddy's orbit, nothing is what it seems. Not the love, not the lifestyle, and certainly not the things as women say on camera. For years, Diddy was untouchable, the mogul, the boss, the billionaire bachelor surrounded by beautiful women and draped in opulence. He dated models, threw parties with kings and presidents, and sold the fantasy of black excellence. But now, that fantasy is crumbling, and the public is finally saying out loud what many only dared to whisper. Because the Cassie lawsuit cracked something open, and the internet hasn't been the same since. Scroll through the comments now, and you won't just see gossip. You'll see reckoning. One user wrote, "This man's entire image was built on controlling women. We just didn't want to see it." Another said, "Young Miami isn't wild. She's surviving. You think she's the first girl to laugh off what actually hurt. And then the one that stopped everyone cold. Y'all called her a city girl, but she might be a captive. Cassie just had the courage to walk first." That's the shift. We're no longer asking why these women stayed. We're asking what he did to make them stay. Young Miami, Kershaw, was once the poster girl for the new era of empowered, independent women. Loud, sexual, unapologetic. She had her own money, her own show, her own style. But after Cassie's revelations, her entire relationship with Diddy is being re-examined. The power imbalance, the public displays, the viral golden shower moment. It's all under a new lens now, one shaded by trauma, not triumph. Because what if Kershaw wasn't in control? What if her choice was survival? What if all the luxury, the jets, the diamonds, the invites, were the same velvet chains Cassie described? Fans are connecting the dots, not to cancel the women, but to protect them. And this is the moment when public perception truly turns. Not just on Diddy, but on the machinery that props men like him up. The labels, the press, the influencers who looked the other way while these women were groomed in plain sight. Because now, fans aren't asking how he got away with it. They're asking how he let him. We talk a lot about emotional trauma, about scars you can't see. But in Cassie's lawsuit, there's a detail that's too often overlooked. One that speaks to the silent suffering behind scenes. The kind of pain that doesn't go viral but never goes away. Cassie says she lived with chronic urinary tract infections. Not once, not twice, but consistently, relentlessly, over years. And it wasn't just the infections, it was that the antibiotics stopped working. Her body, according to her own testimony, was being pushed to its limits. Worn down, ravaged by repeated sexual demands, violated to the point that her immune system couldn't keep up. Now think about that. Think about what it means to live with that kind of pain on a loop. The burning, the discomfort, the shame, the fact that every day you wake up knowing your body is broken because someone else decided they owned it. This isn't a story about a toxic relationship. This is about a woman whose body was physically deteriorating under the weight of someone else's control. This is about what happens when abuse isn't just psychological, it's medical, it's systemic, it's internalized. Because Cassie wasn't just traumatized, she was sick, and the world applauded her abuser's image while her health collapsed behind closed doors. You don't get chronic UTIs from love. You get them from overexposure, from lack of autonomy, for being pushed past your physical limits for someone else's pleasure. And when antibiotics no longer work, that's not just a diagnosis, that's a consequence. That's the body saying, I can't fight this anymore. So while the headlines focus on the drama, on the money, on the celebrities, remember this. Cassie's lawsuit isn't just about the emotional scars. It's about the infection that wouldn't go away. A reminder that sometimes abuse leaves evidence medicine can't erase. And that's the part nobody wants to talk about. But we will. Diddy's empire may not survive this. The lawsuits were just the beginning. Now, prosecutors are circling. Investigators are digging. And behind those redacted pages and sealed documents, there are whispers, names we haven't heard yet, witnesses we haven't seen, stories still too dangerous to tell. Because here's the truth. If even half of what's been alleged is real, then this isn't just about Diddy's fall. It's about how deep the rot goes, who helped him cover it, who looked the other way, and who's still hiding in the shadows. And the question on everyone's lips? Who's next to talk? The women who stayed silent? The assistants who disappeared? The industry insiders who saw too much? Somebody knows something. And the silence? It's cracking. What happens when those sealed testimonies are unsealed? When the FBI comes knocking again? When another woman says, "Me too"? This isn't over. Not even close. Because when a castle this big starts to fall, it never collapses quietly.